What's going on, y'all? Welcome to episode 13 of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Chris, and Shot. Looks like we got them two together, so it's a little different for us today. What's going on, fellas?
Yo, happy holiday.
What's good, man.
Yeah, happy holidays. It is a special edition of the Speak Up Sports Podcast with Thanksgiving coming. Well, let's start with that. What you guys looking forward to for Thanksgiving tomorrow?
We were just saying how, I was just saying how I'm looking forward to the games actually this year. Usually, it's a big reason for that is because the Lions are, decent again. So, of course, you always got the Cowboys who are good this year. So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to. It's that eat, watch football, chill, not too much going on.
Definitely one of them days where you actually get to relax and hopefully, unless you cooking, people ain't bothering.
Fact. But yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I know we're gonna get into it with them games, but all three games are important now. It ain't
Definitely.
all three games make them teams gotta come to play. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, just like Cass said, the food, atmosphere, just chilling off of work.
Is there any food in particular that y'all looking forward to?
I got a controversial one. I like cranberry sauce.
Old head.
Yo.
Old head.
Yeah, you call me old head, but that should be bust down. I don't care what you say.
We don't have no cranberry sauce at mine. What about you, Chris?
Man, I'm looking forward to some red velvet cake, man. My sister Kate, off the charts, man. I'm just looking forward to that. Or also sweet potato souffle. Gotta have that.
Okay, yeah, we be having that.
We don't typically be having too many desserts at mine, so I'm always looking forward to the mac and cheese. Just keep it simple, mac and cheese.
Can't go wrong with that.
As soon as you see that shit come out the oven, it'd be like, yeah, it's time. It's time.
To you.
Before we hop into the games, one of the things that they always do on the Thursday games, especially for the Fox broadcast, is they eat the turkey legs. Yeah. Do y'all ever make those at all?
Or is turkey big turkey legs? Nah, we do. We make turkey, but slice it. I never really sit there and eat unless I'm at like a fair or some shit. That's the only time.
Turkey leg. They do be good though at the fair though, for real.
Yeah. Facts. But with that being said, as it is, as we always do, get into the weekly review. We had some, pretty good games. We talked about it being a big week. It was kind of initially thought to be kind of an ugly week of games, but it ended up turning out to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Starting off with the first game of the week, we got some tough news that happened during the game, but Baltimore versus Cincinnati. Baltimore ultimately came out with the dub. Lamar Jackson played well. Obviously, Joe Burrow, he's been hurt and banged up all year, and we saw that actually really a week ago today, we saw Joe Burrow, that picture kind of go out and go viral, where he had everybody's been using the term device on his wrist. Come to the game, and he takes a couple hits and he ends up getting out for the game, and we come to find out that he's out for the rest of the season. How did you guys feel about that once you heard the news?
As far as the device?
Not as far as the device, but just in terms of him getting hurt in the game and ultimately finding out, we probably thought at first it'd probably be maybe a game or two, if that, and then coming to find out it's the whole season.
That shit sucked. He been hurt every year since he been in the league. Like, I feel like even though we've seen glimpses, they did go to the Super Bowl, we just haven't seen like the full established Joe Burrow that we, expected seeing him coming out of LSU. Like, outside of the Super Bowl year, like, it just feel like injury just has derailed him every time, and it sucks for him. I hate it for him because he a good ass quarterback.
It does suck for him. He's slowly getting, well, not really slowly anymore, but getting that kind of injury prone status. And as a quarterback, like, it's tough to have that, that injury prone status as a quarterback, because it's like, dude, like, you can find ways to protect yourself. But he be having like some freak shit going on. It's interesting though, his comments about that device is that, he wore it because of the flying and, wearing compression to kind of keep it so. But you could tell there was something there. Just like we saw him with the calf sleeve on right before he hurt his calf, even worse than what it was when he was in practice earlier in the season. So, it's tough for them. but it's kind of like this was a loss. It was turned into a lost year anyway. You know what I mean? So it is what it is at this point. Just get back healthy next year. But they have a lot of questions coming up too, though. So like you can't really treat it as a lost year as far because you have major questions about who you want to keep, coaching staff wise. Are you going to bring T. Higgins back? What's your payroll going to look like next year? Like it's a lot of questions with this Bengals team where it was turned to a lost year, but it did not. Like you didn't have room for it to be a lost year. So it's.
And on top of that, T. Higgins hasn't had the best year either. He's been kind of in and out with injuries, and then on top of that, just being ineffective on the field.
Yeah.
But like you said, they do got a lot of tough decisions. Because what at this point, do you feel? We've seen some of the, and obviously things haven't transpired exactly the same, but we've seen some of the changes with the Buffalo Bills, who've kind of gone through a similar path. Obviously, the Bengals made it further and made it to the Super Bowl, but the Bills obviously made it to the AFC Championship, and then, as we've heard, have kind of regressed every year in terms of their place in the playoffs. Obviously now, ultimately, the Bengals are going to just completely, well, we can't say completely, but likely probably going to miss the playoffs with Jake Browning taking over. He didn't look too great in the game itself. I mean, it is going against the toughest or the number one defense in the league. But, with that being said, where do you go with T. Higgins? Do you tag him, try to give it one more year to see how things go? Do you go ahead and let him go? And now that you're in a position where you're probably not going to win as many games, do you draft a rookie such as Odunze from Washington, or maybe Neighbors from LSU? Neighbors from LSU, already saying that with the LSU connection. But yeah, it is tough. And the division's only getting better because, this is the first year of the Lamar Jackson with his new offensive coordinator, with the new weapons. You can expect, or let's not say expect, but you'd hope that they probably get another weapon here with Odell, obviously aging a little bit. But we did see another tough injuries with Mark Andrews. Supposedly, we initially thought that it was going to be he was going to be completely out for the season, but we now seen that it wasn't as bad as initially thought, and he maybe can return if it is a deep playoff run.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what led to that was what's now kind of going viral in that hip drop tackle. How did you guys feel about that in terms of all the talk about it?
I mean, I'm kind of with the players. What most players have been saying, it's hard to get rid of that. Like when you're full speed trying to get a guy, especially as big as Mark Andrews, down or as fast as Tony Pollard, all you can do is hold on to him and use your weight to bring him down. I mean, that's what that's what you're always taught to do, like growing up. If the guy's ahead of you, you're not gonna just let him run. You know what I mean? So it's that'll be something that'll be tough to outlaw. I mean, I get the discourse on it though, because it is leading to a lot of like freaky injuries, but at the same time, it's like, well.
I mean, what you want them to do though? I mean, it's a tackle, like you said. If you running away from me, like even if I'm diving to grab you, I'm diving to try to pull you back because that's the only way I'm gonna keep your momentum from going forward.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like the head thing where even though it's still an issue, but you could kind of avoid like going directly helmet to helmet, but. As far as if you're past me and I'm trying to grab you, like I gotta pull my weight back. I understand that you got the horse collar tackle, which made sense. You can't just directly grab him, but I mean, like if I'm grabbing you by the waist or whatever, and I'm trying to pull down because I'm trying to keep you from moving forward, that can stop a first down, touchdown. That's a play.
Yeah.
You saying I can't do that now? It's like, okay, well, I just gotta let him go.
I think the big thing is like nobody's trying to like hurt somebody when they do that. And I think you see it from like even defensive players on the Ravens spoke out and said like it's football. I mean, it is what it is. Like it's a tough injury, that happened to our offensive player, but at the same time, like we're the ones playing defense. We know how hard it is to get these guys down to begin with, how careful you got to be. So to make it even worse by trying to outlaw it or kind of ban it, then you leaving a lot up to the refs, which has been also like targeting this year has been iffy. You know what I mean? So it's
Unless
just
you Kareem Jackson.
yeah, he
Yeah,
had.
he different. He
So
different.
like you're leaving a lot to the refs at that point, and that's never good if you're leaving a lot of the game up to the ref. You know what I mean? So
And my thing about it is and part of that is with all the tackling and stuff. Yeah, I feel like maybe defensive players would be a little bit more receptive if it didn't seem like everything. We talked about a little bit about how all of the offensive
penalty
penalties, give them another play. All the defensive penalties are automatic first
automatic
downs and
first
stuff
down.
like that. But it's like maybe if they would give a little bit to the defense, because it seems like everything is taken away from the defense when it comes to rules change. Obviously, the NFL in terms of dollars and money want to have the high scoring games like college and have which I really don't understand, because while I get the popularity of college is more popular in the South than it really is around the world, number one. And then number two, like, I feel like most people who are actual like fans of football feel like college is kind of a weaker product than the NFL, just because of how, no disrespect to the
The
college
disparity,
athletes, but
yeah,
you have, number one, it is parity. Number two, it's a lot. I mean, ultimately at the college level, you have guys that are going to end up being podcasters like us, and guys that are going to the league. so, so what? At that point, like, what? It's there's always going to be a difference, and you're always going to be able to see it. And I don't know. I find it interesting, but now that we talked a little bit about it, it kind of brings me back to and I want to know what y'all's feelings are on it. About Tom Brady saying that the NFL as a whole is kind of mediocre right now because of stuff like that, where they're taking so much away from the defense. And he was saying, like, in the past, you had to, it was more skill based. Like, you had to, as a receiver, he was saying, like, he obviously wouldn't throw a pass in certain places so that a receiver wouldn't kill, but it's also up to the receiver to protect themselves.
yeah.
Marvin Harrison, for example, used to be somebody that, he'd run and then he'd get right down. Like, he ain't taking hits.
Chad,
So, Chad, Tyler Lockett does it sometimes. T.Y.
yeah.
Hilton was really good doing that as well.
St. Brown, he does a lot. I mean, like,
How do y'all feel
learn.
about that? Do y'all think that the NFL, comparatively to, when we were growing up, is mediocre, or, maybe lacking in the product?
I think it's a big overreaction, just overall, about the product moving forward. As far as people saying, like, oh, well, just make it flag football. Like, no, like, it's still,
That's just dumb.
yeah, like, let's not go that far with it. Like, I get, like, you don't agree with some of the rule changes and all that. But no, there is a skill, like like you said, like with the guys we pointed out, you find ways. You just have to work on your game and work on your timing, refine your routes. Like, it's ways to get around, like, not taking big hits and being careful. Of course, it's football, it's collision sports, so anything can happen. But like, there are ways where you can kind of avoid that. But
I mean, I feel like it's perspective. Yeah. So, like you said, we talking about Tom Brady. I mean, he done played early 2000s, so he done been in each era and knowing what feels and what's different, how it changed, and he's like, man, it's way more. If I would have, in his mind, he probably like, if I would have started off with this era, I could go crazy. But you got people now that are in this era that's being brought up in this era, so they're learning, they're understanding, like, okay, I can't hit it like this, I got to do it like this. And you still got the older people that's in there that's like, man, this is crazy. But I think eventually it'll be fine. I think once the older people out of the NFL that is playing now is gone, I think it won't be much of an issue. I wouldn't say the product is very, I mean, I can understand what you're saying, but I wouldn't say it's diminished in a way. Yeah. It's a sore eye for people who done grew up watching more physical play.
I will say that I agree with him in terms of, maybe not that the product is mediocre, but similar to, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit in the show, but we've definitely talked about it in the past just amongst ourselves. And similar to the NBA, I've always kind of said, like, the IQ and the of players today, they're not as high IQ as it feels like back then, or like when we were growing up, or even before in the 90s. A lot of that had to do probably because some of those guys weren't as skilled as these guys are now, so they're not as crafty. They're not as, they don't, they're not as smart, basically, essentially. And I mean, I feel like sometimes it is the same way in the NFL. we say as fans, we always are cursing at the quarterbacks when they make dumb passes or they throw medicine balls and the hospital balls, and it feels like we see that a lot more now, especially because the defensive players are trying to, like, even when they are trying to lower their striking area, we still seeing the helmet to helmet and the bang bang plays and people getting like severely hurt, or it's a situation where we're seeing somebody's getting their knees torn out because somebody went low. Maybe they tried to make a cut and to get away from it, knee blown out.
Yeah,
it's all kind of crazy stuff. So that's one thing that I will say that I will agree with him in terms of just the skill. I guess IQ is technically a skill to me, in my opinion. That is something that's kind of lacking.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Sure. But with that being said, the Ravens dominated. Basically getting back to the game, Ravens dominated. Continuing on what they've been doing. Lamar Jackson was excellent, especially after Mark Andrews got hurt. They had a little, back and forth. Joe Burrow and then went down and scored, and then he ended up getting hurt. Odell, big game from Odell, 116 yards, 4 catches. He's getting better and better, and you can see every time he makes a catch, he got a little. He's animated. He got a little something that he throws.
He got a little. He had a lot of incentive in his contract, so I mean, it was kind of understandable why he was acting that way a few weeks ago. You know what I mean? As far as his production, and he's getting a lot of pass interference penalties on him, which doesn't relate to his actual impact on the game, which is the tough part about signing contracts that have incentives like that. Because if you're getting held, on your would-be touchdowns, they're not gonna count that shit. So I get why he was frustrated, but you can definitely see, like, you get him a couple of touches, he's juiced up, he's ready to go. Even when he's hurt.
He might not be as explosive, but he can still move. Like he's still solid.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's still a impactful player. But yeah, I mean, the Ravens, I did pick Cincinnati to win this game. I picked Cincinnati to win the AFC, but yeah, it's rough. Ravens look good though, man. They just gotta keep it up and be consistent with it. But
what say you, Chris? What you got to say to end us off?
I mean, hey, hats off to the Ravens. I mean, they're suffering so many injuries, but they just fighting through. They're still making play. They making no excuses about what's going on. They chugging forward. I mean, I really like what I'm seeing from them. You might be on something, Shy. You might.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they still got a tough stretch coming up.
Yes.
Another team that we will see on, and we've been kind of saying, is Houston, and they keep showing us. CJ Stroud keeps showing us, keep proving us, or keep showing everybody that doubted him coming into the season, into his rookie year, into the draft. Everybody that doubted him, that he's him. Like he's confident in his game. He compared himself kind of like to Steph Curry. Which is, some people will say that you don't want to hear from a rookie player. Others will say, you love to see it because, I mean, at the end of the day, he's comparing himself to greatness, and that's what he's trying to achieve. And right now, that's what he's doing. He's playing great. We've talked about it a little bit, how people have him in the MVP conversation, and even after a rough game this week against the Cardinals, he came through. 3 interceptions. Tough game. Kyler, having his second game back, and he started off hot. He made some plays. He made a beautiful throw for that first touchdown, and they just both of them make beautiful throws. That one touchdown that he had to Tank Dell.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. On the fly, like, get out there, and to throw a dot, Kyler from the pocket, which you love to see him throw dots from the pocket because you know how Kyler is, but. Yeah, he threw a dot right in the middle of the field. Was 50, 60 yards. Like it was a great game to watch. It's just, you can just see, like, and he had this confidence, of course, always, throughout college. I'm talking about CJ Stroud here. Throughout college, throughout the whole process. But as far as NFL play, you can see, like, once he got like a couple of games under his belt, it was like, yeah, I can do this shit. Like, it's tough to stop a quarterback with confidence like that. And you kind of see the flip side of it, which I don't know, we'll talk too much about Bryce in this one, but you kind of see the flip side of it with Bryce, where he's not really trusting a lot of stuff. And it's not just his fault, but it's a lot of his offense.
It's a lot going on.
His offense, he's not trusting, it's just a disconnect there. And you don't see that at all with CJ. They're all in sync. Everybody on that on their staff seem to know like what they're trying to do. That offense is humming, man. I mean, he's thrown. And I saw a stat today where he's thrown like the last 3 games, 260 plus air yards. You know what I mean? So he's throwing the shit out of that. That's what I'm saying, bro. It's crazy. It's good to see though, man. Like CJ is he's really proven it. He's like, even after the 3 interceptions that he had this game, he's still on people's rankings for MVP. He still got Rookie of the Year stamp. Like, I don't see him, like, unless something drastic happens in these last 6-7 games, I don't see anything. Like, he's definitely winning that at least.
And this upcoming week will be the week where he truly secures it. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but big division game coming. Really, the biggest division game coming up for them. But with that being said, it is episode 13, and we got to talk about number 13, Tank Dell. I mean, rookie receiver. He's nasty, man. Like, it's not CJ Stroud, but I mean, and it's all the rookies, honestly, this year. I mean, we've seen Jordan Addison has played well. We'll get into another rookie receiver, but that's on the opposite side here. But Zay Flowers, he played well. He's been playing well. Josh Downs has played well. Puka,
another big game,
another huge game, in a big upset win for the Rams. But this rookie class it's crazy because this rookie class is looking really well, looking really good. Jackson Smith and Jigba hasn't even really got off like he's supposed to really either. I mean, he's had some good flashes here and there.
Yeah.
Rashee Rice hasn't necessarily had that 100-yard big huge game yet, but you can see that it's right there. We're gonna get into a game full of rookie receivers that both played well and didn't play well in the end. But Jaden Reed, Wicks for the Packers as well. I mean, this rookie class is looking good, and then with the next rookie class coming in with, like I mentioned, Odunze and Malik Neighbors and Keon Coleman for FSU, not to even mention freaking Marvin Harrison, who's coming. Oregon's got a good receiver that's coming out as well. Shit, it's Texas got 2 good receivers coming out. It's gonna be the receivers, and that's the thing about T. Higgins is like, and Michael Pittman too. Those are 2 upcoming free agents. Mike Evans as well. It's this receiver class is coming in is gonna be nasty. So it's gonna be interesting to see what their contracts are looking like. Moving on.
Yeah, definitely making it easier to pivot towards, okay, well, maybe we could just save some money, save a lot of money in like Mike Evans, T. Higgins case, and go with one of these rookie receivers. And I mean, if you got the scheme to make it happen, like, because a lot of these, that's the thing, like receiving in general, like if you have the skill set, if you can catch, you know what I mean, if you
run routes
nowadays,
but like you can work with that. It's just the ones that are like just completely lost out there or have no hands and just a track speed. Like those are the ones where it's like you get in trouble if you put all your eggs in that basket. Yeah. But yeah, it's getting more skilled, and that kind of aligns with what we talked about to open, like just overall IQ and how you approach the game now.
And that's also because at the high school level now, compared to like when we were growing up, like, we've talked about it a little bit. At my high school, we were one of the first teams in Georgia really to have that spread offense. And a lot of teams were running like Veer and Robson, Wing T, like, and even before then. So the receivers, their route tree wasn't as developed as they are. They're coming in and they're running everything. They're nasty. Yeah. And we still haven't even seen, QJ really do much. Jalen Hyatt, he hasn't done too much. Obviously, the Giants are having a rough season, but he can be having some quarterback help coming with this upcoming draft. So it's going to be a good sight to see how this rookie class goes out, because right now we don't really have Puka started off hot, but with the way that all the rest of these receivers have come up, there's not really like a bona fide, like this is the top guy coming out right now. So it's going to be fun to watch them all. But getting back to the game, we talked a little bit about CJ Stroud. How did you guys feel about Kyler Murray in his second game? Are y'all thinking that, a lot of the conversation was they were going to get Caleb Williams, blah, blah, blah. Are you thinking that they're going to be looking at a rookie quarterback, or are we riding with Kyler?
It's going to be tough, man. But I think at this point, and that's the reason why you chose to bring him back for the second little half of the season. You don't have anything to play for if you're the Cardinals, really. You're really just trying to see, really, if Kyler's going to be that quarterback of your future. That's really all they're playing these games for at this point. And he has shown some encouraging things. So he's making it really tough on that front office and decision makers over there in Arizona as far as what to do going forward. Because he's always had the skill set. You know what I mean? He is a Pro Bowl quarterback, like he is, but it's other things that when the play, of course, we saw like last year, the whole study and situation that came out, the clause in the contract. So it's just been a lot of other stuff that kind of shifted people's confidence in him moving forward.
It's funny given that Cliff Kingsbury was also the coach of Johnny Manziel. So it seems like that's just something that, maybe he's floating out about his quarterback.
Teach.
Yeah.
Hey.
Go ahead.
I think, like Cass said, he's making it hard, but I also believe that because of the coach they have, they're gonna keep him. He's not an offensive coach; that's a defensive coach. I feel like if he was an offensive minded coach, he probably would have wanted something. He know who he wants as a quarterback. He would probably be like, hey, okay, you know what? I want my quarterback. I want a quarterback for me, for my offense. But he's a defensive coach. I don't think in his mind he will want to get rid of Kyler Murray. That's just a defensive minded coach, in my opinion. Once he went there, and once they decided to trade Josh Dobbs, they was going to keep Kyler Murray. In my opinion, I don't think it was a reason for them to trade him if they was going to ultimately get rid of Kyler.
And I mean, Hollywood Brown is also a free agent coming up too, so we'll see. That'll probably be the first indication, kind of like what route they're trying to go if they re-sign him, because they re-sign him. Michael Wilson's playing pretty well. So that's another rookie receiver. Marvin Harrison Jr. That would be everybody talks about how he's going to go top 3. Right now, they're looking like a team that's going to be in the top 3. So
that's a good spot for him. I think that would be a good spot for him.
That'd be a nasty little young receiving trio as well, and with Trey McBride as at tight end, be interesting to see.
I can see that happen. Yeah,
be interesting to see. But with the conversation about rookie receivers, the one that has been in the media the most this week for all the wrong reasons, unfortunately, my guy Quentin Johnston, in the Packers-Chargers game, ultimately probably made the biggest blunder of the season so far for his season, and maybe the biggest public blunder thus far that's been talked about the most. When he had a big drop on third down that probably would have went for a touchdown to take the lead, and Packers probably win that game. I mean, the Chargers probably win that game if he catches that and takes it like he was supposed to, but tough, man. Tough. What'd you guys think of the game? It was a great game.
It was a great game. It was a
hell of a game.
Yeah, down the stretch, it was really back and forth there. That's tough on QJ, though. I mean, I don't think he's as trash as everybody's saying, like, after that game. Twitter, or X was hilarious. You know what I mean? They were going in on him, but I don't think he's that bad. But you got to make those plays. I
think if he would have had a better season so far, that one play wouldn't be such an issue.
That's true, too. He hasn't really got going. He's had games where he had, no catches, 1 catch, 2 catch. Like, he hasn't developed that kind of chemistry with...
Especially going a pick right before Zay Flowers, similar to Chris. You're very familiar with the Jalen Reagor, Justin Jefferson. That's always going to be something tied to you. And when you're struggling, because like we've talked about, these receivers are coming in, they're highly skillful, they're coming in making an immediate impact. And when you start, we're not seeing too many receivers that don't make an immediate impact come in 2-3 years down the line and start, being nasty.
Yeah. It's tough on QJ. You would think that he would have a better rapport with Justin Herbert at this point in the season, but it don't seem like it's there at all. So I don't know. Maybe they spend an off season together and moving forward, possibly with a new coach, new scheme.
Not possibly. It's the
situation
question.
for him is really perfect. I mean, it's unfortunate, but Mike Williams got hurt. He's out for the season. This is your time to step up. This is your time to step up. Like, hey, they drafted me. They drafted me where they drafted me at. I can show up. I can do this. Because, again, Keenan Allen might be older, but he's commanding the most respect off the offense.
Mm-hmm.
You still got Austin Eckler in the back. So you almost kind of an afterthought in general. This is what's supposed to be your time to shine. And you haven't been doing it, then to have that drop, it sucks, man. I feel bad for him, honestly.
It's very tough, and I'm glad that you went there with Keenan Allen, that he's kind of commanding a lot of the offense, because he, at this point, and this has been something that's been talked about a lot, kind of in the media, kind of in the Twitter world as well, is with the Chargers record being what it is, did we overvalue the Chargers players? And Keenan Allen at this point, aside from Justin Herbert, is really the only player that's playing up to
standard,
playing up to what we thought. You know, somebody said the Chargers, we thought the Chargers had all these stars, but at this point, do the Chargers have a single player that's top 10 at their position, even including outside of Justin Herbert, even including Keenan Allen? Because as good as Keenan Allen is, you know, do you think, I would say that he's been playing like a top 10 receiver this year. And I'd probably say he's been playing like a top 10 receiver over his career. But, you know, you ask most people, they'd probably say, hey, we take 10 receivers over Keenan Allen. Derwin James, you know, most of us would say he's a top 10 safety. Has he been playing like a top 10 safety? Joey Bosa, has he been playing like a top 10 rusher?
Right now, because they
Khalil Mack,
got some players that we know of.
A lot of names.
A lot of names, and it's like
Aaron Hendricks, you know, like we saw with J.C. Jackson. He went over there. We thought he was a top 10 corner, and he bottom 10 at this point. You know,
There, Austin Eckler.
Austin Eckler. I mean, Austin Eckler. I don't know
that Sante Samuel Jr. I mean, he ain't really been here. He ain't really been here much.
I mean, Slater. You could probably Rashawn Slater, the left tackle, but you know he's in and out with injuries. Aside from that, like who else? Who is a guy that you're gonna say that's I mean, any of those guys, we none of us really were like, yeah, that's a bona fide top 10 player. And no disrespect to Keenan Allen, but you know, we could say he's in there or on the fence or whatever. Obviously, Mike Williams is out, but you know, it's going to be a lot of changes next year.
That's the main thing. You have all these players, and like a lot of them didn't just get trashed overnight.
Yeah.
So what do you look at? You look at the coaching staff putting these players in positions that are not, you know, conducive to, you know, what they're best at, and definitely conducive to winning. So I think like this, you have to look at it like that. And they spend a lot of money. They have a big, big payroll. So it's like, and
it's going to be tough to get out of it.
It's tough to get out of it. So you got to kind of mold around the players. You got to change this. You got to change the staff up. You got to. And it's writing on the wall. It's been there all season. It's been there since last season. So, I mean,
Derwin James, you can come to the squad, my boy. You can come to the squad.
It's a lot of names you named. I know a lot of teams like,
we'll take the chance. Fuck it. You come to the squad. But on the flip side, on the other side, well, before we get to them, did you guys see that Austin Eckler run when he got around the corner? That boy, that man didn't bring no gear, nothing. Like that shit was crazy.
He's been battling a lot of injuries this season, so I don't want to put too much on him. But
that looked rough.
That looked like, where are you going?
Like, where you moving? But flipping to the other side, the winning team, the Green Bay Packers, you know, they've had kind of a rough season. You know, how first to stand on and to pick them to be top 2 in the NFC, which is yuck.
That's crazy.
But, you know, Jordan Love been up and down. He was up. He had a really good game. The young receivers are playing excellent, man. Jaden Reed's continue to make plays every single game. Dobbs has continued to make plays every single game. Christian Watson, at this point, this is the guy that we thought was going to come in and be the dog. A little disappointing. And that was kind of, you know, that's one thing about the Aaron Rodgers effect, where he can make you look a little bit better than maybe you are. We're seeing that with Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb and over there with New York not really making too many plays. No disrespect. But, you know, Christian Watson at this point, he came into his draft being kind of a raw player, and now he's kind of looking like he's the 4th receiver on the team. You know, is that are y'all feeling the same way, or do y'all think that, you know, it might be time for he might be getting pushed out at this point?
I'm glad you brought it up, actually, because it kind of ties into what we said about the rookie receivers from this year. You know, people were looking at the rookie receivers from last year. Of course, you got him along with Drake, Garrett. But a lot of it is like, how much of it is quarterback play? You know what I mean? And how much is it actually them?
But even then, Garrett Wilson's making plays. Like Garrett
He's making
Wilson,
plays, but he's not having a huge statistical season. Like I get what you're saying. Like what Christian Watson's not doing either, but
Yeah.
it's
I'm gonna just chalk it up at them just not being on the same page. He was injured earlier in the season, and so that gave Jordan Love a chance to work the other receivers around, and maybe just trust them more. But I would say that I do like what I'm seeing. I feel like with Jordan Love, there's not a question like, is he going to be their quarterback? He just need to work at it. I think they can work with that, and I think he can move forward and be a good quarterback.
They have to.
For them. I mean, they have to, but I'm saying like it ain't a situation where like, damn, I'm not seeing it.
He definitely has a lot of room to grow, and I think they know that. This season, of course, as a whole, is just make sure that he gets that development time and everything, but he just has to put it all together. Like we said it in many episodes. Like he'll have a great first, couple quarters and a bad last couple quarters, or he have a great fourth quarter after a terrible first 3 quarters. You just got to put up because you see the flashes, and we've seen that. We've seen that from last 3 years. You know what I mean? So just little flashes here and there, but I don't have any worries really about this Packers, offense around him, but I think the team as a whole just needs to get on the same wavelength as far as expectations. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. And that's where I'm like, if I would say I agree with y'all to an extent. Like if I come to the offseason and I see, hey, the Vikings have somehow traded up in the first round and they're not going to sign Kirk Cousins. If I'm the Packers, I'm trying to get Kirk Cousins. If I'm the Packers, I'm trying to get. I might even look at a Ryan Tannehill to bring him in, as a backup just in case Jordan Love, because the Packers have a team that's ready to compete right now.
That's
both
why
offensive and defensively. So like, it's kind of hard. It's good that you're getting this year out with Jordan Love. Obviously, it's a down year for them, but next year you don't want to have this same issue occurring. And they're probably going to have to get another. They're probably going to look to get another running back because Aaron Jones has been in and out of injuries. AJ Dillon hasn't been very effective, and they already were. I think the closest team to trading for Jonathan Taylor at the beginning of the season. It was between them and Miami. So they'll probably be looking to getting another running back. So it's at this point, I mean, this year, we'll see how he ends and we'll see what available options they have at the end of the year. But I mean, it's ultimately going to be a big make or break year for him, or make or break first couple games for him. Because I don't see that I believe that they think that they've got an opportunity. Rashawn Gary will be a year away from having that injury that he's coming back from this year, and they're gonna be a problem. They're gonna be a problem. That's a deep team, in my opinion, and it's.
Then just got to match up the timelines of your talent and what you're expecting.
I just can't believe Aaron Rodgers, man. Oh man. If you would have just stayed.
If he would have stayed, If
you would have just stayed and they would have had the same draft class, y'all would have been 13-3 again, basically, or 13-4, whatever.
It would have been, yeah.
It would have been a problem. But moving to the next game, and one of the teams that we will see tomorrow on Thanksgiving, Seattle taking a tough loss against the LA Rams. We talked about it a little bit earlier with Puka Nacua. Having a big game, and it could have gotten even uglier because Cooper Kupp, he dropped a big touchdown early on. He ended up getting hurt. Geno Smith ended up getting hurting his elbow. He ended up coming back in. What did you guys think of the game? It was a great game.
It was a good game, but man, Seattle couldn't lose that, man.
They can't.
I mean, that was their second time losing to them. And it's like, yo, you trying to get good position in your division. You trying to keep up with. I mean, but like you said, we'll talk about it later. Big game for them tomorrow. But I mean, that one kind of hurt for them. Definitely. If you ask me.
Yeah, they definitely needed that win to kind of keep some
keep
pace in the NFC. I mean, because they were at like 2 weeks ago, it was like, okay, they got a chance to. They got
the number one seed. They were tied for the one seed.
Then, then you turn around, and it's like, well, shit. tomorrow's game is huge. You know what I mean? But where you had a little bit of leeway going in 2 weeks ago, but that was a bad loss. They couldn't afford to lose that one. I did like, kind of what I saw, with Geno coming back. But if he's hurt, you know what I mean, like going forward.
Especially the next 2 games, you got the 49ers and the Cowboys back-to-back, 2 tough defenses.
3 games.
I mean, yeah, the next 3 games, but just the defenses, I mean, y'all defenses, we'll see about it.
Yeah, it's a tough stretch. So if he's not clicking on all cylinders, it's going to be, you know what I mean? I still think they'll probably make the playoffs just because it's the NFC, but I mean, it's going to be interesting for sure.
Making the playoffs, and they're probably not going to win a playoff game at this point. I mean, the way the team's looking, and it's almost like, do you even want to make the playoffs because you're kind of seeing that you've hit your ceiling with Geno Smith, and what path do you have now? In terms of getting a quarterback, because and that's no disrespect to Geno Smith. He's played great. He's played decent this season. Not as great as last season, but he's still playing well. But he is getting older, and at some point, this team is a young team that this would be a great time to get a young quarterback to go. There were rumors about them trying to possibly go get Anthony Richardson. I'm sure they probably were in on C.J. Stroud as well, because it's seeming like everybody was trying to trade up. Tennessee's probably kicking themselves now because that was the guy that they wanted to trade up for. But
I tell you what, they send Geno down to ATL, man. We'll give you the pick. Fuck it. I think that's a good spot for him. I'm just saying. If we keep Art, give him Geno.
All right. You're gonna be mad too, boy. You're gonna be like, bro, why did we do that? We could have drafted a quarterback.
Yeah.
But the Rams, big game for Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
Keeps coming up big whenever they need him, whenever Cooper Kupp goes out. Mm-hmm. Matt Stafford continues to deal, continues to be a good vet. And that's the thing about the Rams. This is a good year for them to rebuild, but they have an opportunity to make some noise next year if they can sign some guys to free agency, have another strong draft class. They've had some good upsets. Obviously, they've been in damn near every game that they played. It could have gone either way. It came down to a few plays here and there. As long as Matt Stafford stays healthy, and if he decides to come back, we don't know between him. We've heard the rumors between him, Aaron Donald, and McVay. It'll be interesting to see. And honestly, I don't know if Cooper Kupp will be back next year at this point, because that's a tradable piece. He keeps getting hurt. Puka's played well. Obviously, Tutu's played well. Do you go get a top receiver and try to trade Cooper Kupp to a quote unquote contender that maybe be a receiver away, a Ravens team?
That's the thing about these young receivers. Puka is making that more and more, making him more and more expendable every week. So that's been interesting. I mean, Cooper Kupp still
for Stephon Diggs. Get him out of there. Hey, Stephon will love LA. That's a.
We don't know what he'll like.
I mean, I feel like the stardom of LA.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's Stephon right there. I don't know that. But yeah, Seattle. I mean, tough games, like you mentioned. Seattle. They've got San Fran coming up. They've got the Cowboys, which that'll be a big game for both the Cowboys and Seattle. And then ultimately with the Eagles got a tough stretch coming up as well. But they started off first game of the tough stretch on a good note, getting the Super Bowl.
Let's talk about it.
Let's Super Bowl rematch.
We buried the lead.
Buried the lead there. And one of the things that we talked about Seattle is we talked about them a lot about how they could have possibly been in the 1 seed, and we were talking about them a couple weeks ago. we've talked about the Eagles. Obviously, it's kind of hard to not talk about the Eagles because we've got an Eagles fan, but it still kind of feels like the Eagles have kind of gone under the radar to be a team that has only one loss. They're the best team in the league by record. They've have played multiple great teams, multiple good teams, beating them all. Obviously, ultimately coming up on the Monday night. What a win! What a win! What a comeback win! That I know in your heart in that first half, you like, we about to get smacked.
It was looking ugly. But now I wanted to comment on what you said, but I mean, we have been flying on radar. It's kind of interesting because last year, the narrative was we winning all these games, but we're not playing anybody.
Exactly.
Because we played all the teams we were playing were a bad team, and like we only could play on our schedule. You haven't played a real top quarterback, but now this year we're playing better teams. They're close games, but we're actually being the team that's not making the mistakes down the stretch.
Pulling it out.
We're making all the plays you're supposed to make, pulling off like we're a veteran team now. But again, people saying, y'all not winning convincingly, y'all not blowing people out. I mean, we don't have to.
And it doesn't make sense because you got a team like Buffalo that does blow, and the Cowboys that does blow teams out, and then we see them struggle against other teams. Well, the Cowboys more specifically, we see them struggle against top teams. Buffalo it could be a top team. It could be any team.
Really know Buffalo.
Buffalo will blow anybody out. But, it's crazy. And even to the point of like, we've seen, obviously, as the season gets towards the end, there's been more and more conversation about the MVP. And, statistically speaking, people are going to be like, no, Jalen Hurts can't be the MVP. He just only had 150 yards against the Kansas City Chiefs. But it's like, for me, and I'm not saying that Jalen is the MVP, but for me, that's like those moments, like the moment where he was struggling. And I said in our text group, he looked shook. He was, they was getting after him. He was just tucking the ball, like wasn't even like just stop.
He almost
running, like he just bruh, just tucking the ball. And I mean, you couldn't see it. Obviously, when you're watching the broadcast, you can't see what the receivers in the back end are doing and stuff like that. But it just looked like maybe they was locked up. But it's like, bruh, what's going on out here?
Yeah.
And then in the second half, almost kind of like the inverse of what Kansas City did in the Super Bowl, because weren't they down 10?
They were down 10.
At half this game.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, when they were down 10, I was like, the Eagles are going to win just because of the inverse of what was going to happen. But obviously, he has the big touchdown run, and then the biggest play of the game was the second biggest play of the game. It was the play to Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
And for me, that's like where that's what an MVP is like when you're maybe not having your best game, you're making those plays against the top team, against a team that team that you play in the Super Bowl, against a team that people think is going to go back to the Super Bowl, against the Super Bowl or the former Super Bowl MVP as well as the reigning league MVP. Same thing we had when they played Miami. You see him going against the storyline between Tua and Jalen alone. Right, Miami being a team that put 70 up on somebody's head, and they just go in and dominate. It's like stuff like that. That's what an MVP should look like. All this Dak Prescott like beating the Giants. That shit to me is crazy.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's the moments. Like we played Dallas. You had the ball at the 6-yard line. That's a moment.
You ran out of bounds. You ran short.
Out of bounds. That's a moment. Like those are moments. Like it doesn't matter about the stats. You just made the play of the game that won the game. But it's a stat league, so it is what it is.
I mean, I agree with the moments thing. And we've seen Jalen Hurts step up multiple times this year. I mean, he had. I mean, when you get in the 1 yard line, you can book that shit as a touchdown. But he also had another rushing touchdown, run up the middle, like
ran with conviction.
It was like a 10-yard,
10, 12-yard run up the middle. Like he's making these plays where it's like that's why he's valuable. That's why he's the most valuable. If you look at it like that, I'm not saying he's MVP as well, but
he probably won't have my vote right now.
But
I mean,
it'd probably be Lamar. I'd give it to Lamar if I had.
I'd say Lamar, and I'd honestly. I think Purdy's got a good shot, man. Like statistically, and for the same reason, when we're talking about moments, obviously he had the 3-game stretch. In that Cleveland game, he did drive them down, even though he was having a bad game and the kicker missed. The second game, I mean, he did have a concussion, so I don't know if that was just ass or what. The Vikings game, the Vikings were just hot, and he didn't play well. I mean, it is what it is. But you had the game against the Cowboys. They blow them out. You had against a game against the Jaguars where, I'm sure a lot of people thought that the Jaguars were going to come in or were going to whip their ass at home. Smacks them, plays excellent.
Yeah.
You had this past game last week, plays excellent. It's like those are like stuff like that. That's another moment, and he's going to have some moments coming up. He's going to have a moment on Thursday this week where, we'll get to see him play. So, I would say those will probably be my 3: Lamar, him, Brock Purdy, and Jalen Hurts right now would be the 3 that I would have. But, another MVP candidate for some people and the reigning MVP, Patrick Mahomes. What do you guys think about his play this year? We've talked about the receivers.
We've been talking about this all year. We've been talking about this all year long. I don't mean cut you off, but it's just like...
No, you're good.
It's just like, he can't do it all. And you starting to see, like, okay, the issues that they're having are very profound. Like, the dropping of the pass.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not looking good. The offense looks out of sync. And it's like... We've been saying this.
And I think that's the main thing that has led to him looking not as good. I mean, he's still great, but like he's thrown a lot of picks this year. A lot of that has to do with the offense not being in sync. And offense not in sync because you don't have reliable pass catchers, and a lot of has been made of Travis Kelce's comments, the past week or so about, how his injuries piling up and, he's thinking about retirement and how he's taking a little step back from what we've seen. And of course we see that, you look at all his catches this year, he's not getting away from people. He's making a catch, he's dropping down on his own, or he's getting little catches here and there. He's big in the red zone, always has been. But he's losing that burst, and he's not like making that kind of impact, yards at the catch. That's why Patrick Mahomes' yard is just low this year. Of course,
they haven't scored in the second half in the past 3 games.
Yeah, it's not clicking for them. But we said this, and that's the reason we said this in the preview last week. Like, we don't trust these receivers, and that's the big reason why. We've seen it literally come to a head right then and there.
And
bad drop.
And everybody wants to give like benefit of the doubt, and rightfully so, because they obviously are the reigning champs. They obviously do have the best quarterback in the league, reigning MVP. Give them all the respect. Hall of Fame tight end, Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, coach, whatever, blah blah blah. But it's like for every other team, when we see something that's recurring, when we see something, I mean, we're 12 weeks into the season now. We're getting into week 12. They're not going to win. They're not going to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. Like, we could just go ahead and put that to rest. Like, they're going to come up small because of that same, and we're going to come back and have the same conversation. This team honestly kind of and this team, it kind of reminds me of Brady's last year with the Patriots.
The Patriots, where it's him and Julian.
Because the year before, they won the Super Bowl against the Rams, and similar to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs last year, it was kind of like some grinded out games where it was like, and they had that us against the world mentality, kind of like the Patriots did when they, you've seen the clips of Julian Edelman screaming at Tom Brady, "You're too old," and all that stuff. And then it was kind of like, or we thought at that point in time, it was like Gronk's kind of last hurrah, because he made the big plays in the Kansas City Chiefs AFC Championship game, made the biggest play of the game in the Super Bowl, or one of the biggest plays in the game in the Super Bowl as well. And for me, and then that next year, we were kind of like, this Patriots team is still good. They're still great. And then they eventually, we started to see that their offense wasn't as good, and then they ended up I think that was the year that Miami had that crazy Hail Mary or run with Kenyon Drake, which I got going on. Amazing run with Kenyon Drake, where he scored, and then the Patriots didn't end up getting the 1 seed, and we're probably going to see the same thing. Where the Chiefs don't end up getting the 1 seed for the first time in Patrick Mahomes' era. And obviously Gronk retired that the year before. Are we going to see where Kelce retires this year? We talked a little bit about it. Is his brother going to retire as well? That's kind of what it's giving me. It's giving me those vibes where we're going to see like a new era of the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's going to be interesting to see without Travis Kelce. Eventually there's going to be a point in time where there's going to be no Andy Reid, and it's just going to be Pat. They got rid of Tyreek Hill, so I'm interested. I'm interested to see.
I think they'll definitely, and I think they see it too at this point in the season. I think they'll make an effort to get those pieces, going into next year. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I don't know what will happen, but I don't see them making the Super Bowl this year. I don't think they have it. The defense, of course, is better, a lot better than what I thought they would be coming to the season. Of course, they've been playing phenomenal, but it's like,
and I'm even interested
to just go scoreless in the last 3 second halves and be like, oh yeah, we're a Super Bowl team. Like, no, dude. Like,
that's bad.
And that's the thing, when they have those scripted plays to start the game, that's when their offense is hot. And then once it starts getting deeper into off the script, it starts, those first 15, that's when their offense kind of starts to struggle. They start to have a little bit more turnovers. People are saying the turnovers are uncharacteristic, but it's uncharacteristic for a team that has Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce that you can rely on, and Sammy Watkins and Mecole Hardman's your third. When you start having receivers that you can't trust, that's not uncharacteristic. That's a result of receivers that you can't trust. Like that's what happens. That's typically why we have interceptions. It's not because quarterbacks are just throwing bad passes.
Yep.
I mean, like the pass where Byard had the pick. That was a bad pass. It could have also been a miscommunication where he thought Patrick probably thought he should have thrown a pass that was a little bit more flatter. And he probably thought, he was going to veer up a little bit like what he did. So it's like, that's what happens. And
that's
so
Watson had forever.
And credit to the Eagles defense because Bradley Roby ultimately should have got cooked on that last play, and it ended up working out.
He punched that ball
but
out.
He punched the ball out for Travis Kelce. They made life tough for Travis Kelce, which is ultimately what everybody should be doing. I don't understand how he just be getting wide open like he do.
I mean, especially at this point. I mean, at the time back then, you couldn't double him because you would never want to leave Tyreek Hill by so. But now it's like, okay, we don't. That's literally what the Eagles did. They're like, okay, we don't trust nobody else.
Valdez-Scantling, that's why he got his. He that's why he was wide open like he was. But it's tough. But the Philadelphia Eagles keep winning. That's what they've been doing. I mean, what have they lost? 2 games over the past 2 seasons with a healthy Jalen Hurts in the lineup.
Yep. 26
outside of the Super Bowl, so 3 games technically. And then the ball keeps rolling, man. We're gonna see where it ends up. We're gonna see where it ends up. Did y'all think that Jalen Carter was gonna get that pick?
I think it was a very
he was this move. Close to getting
that was close.
It was a very smart move, and I think you're gonna see a lot of people copy that. It's a copycat league.
It is a copycat league, but not everybody's as athletic as Jalen Carter. So
some people are. Some people are.
He did that shit so smooth.
Bro, he got under here like, oh man. He said he saw it on YouTube from high school. Was it high school?
He said it was he said he saw it in college, but it was a high school player that did it. He said he actually picked it off, so he was like, well, let me try it.
It's genius.
That's interesting. I'm interested to see
everything you pull that off.
If we saw it in this game, so I'm interested to see if this happens in like a playoff game or a game that actually, this would have been a game that meant something as well, but in a game that comes, maybe that Cowboys-Eagles game that's coming up in a few weeks, it'll be interesting to see.
A lot of people saying that's going to lead to injuries as well. I mean, because if you were like, if you trying to dive through this, because he went straight through the center.
But that's why I said not everybody's as athletic as Jalen Carter. He can do that without hitting nobody.
Yeah. So
other big clumsy ass niggas.
300 pounds trying to drive through your legs and shit. They're gonna outlaw that shit too. So
quickly. Quickly. But that wraps up our review of the biggest games from the past week. What a great week going into Thanksgiving. We've mentioned it a couple times. We got 3 Thanksgiving games this week. We also have the first ever Black Friday game on Friday. Also got some great college football games with Rivalry Week coming up. And then ultimately back in the games on Sunday.